So hi everybody, I'm Elizabeth. I'm the Director of Enrollment at San Francisco Theological Seminary, and
I'm Laura Nelson. I'm a fourth-year MD student here at SFTS.
And we are here to tell you a little bit about San Francisco Theological Seminary. So I'm going to start by giving you kind of a general introduction to SFTS, and then Laura and I are going to just talk a little bit about what her experience has been like as a student. So SFTS is the only one of the Presbyterian seminaries that's located on the West Coast. We're actually located just north of San Francisco, across the Golden Gate Bridge in Marin County. It's a great place to be. We're near beautiful hiking trails. We're a short drive to the city, not far from the urban centers of Berkeley and Oakland, not far from the beach, not far from wine country. We're kind of spoiled here. SFTS is a founding member of the Graduate Theological Union. The GTU is a consortium of 9 theological schools as well as several centers of distinction. It's both ecumenical and interfaith. So our students have an opportunity to study here at SFTS and get their Presbyterian requirements and get a good, solid, Reformed education, but also take courses at the Lutheran school or the Catholic school or at the Buddhist Study Center and get a broader sense of religious dialogue in the world. SFTS is very proud of our internship program. We have a very extensive internship program. Most of our students take a full year between their second and third year coursework, as I know Laura did, to do their internship and do a full immersion experience of ministry, because there's so much that you can learn by doing ministry that you can't learn in the classroom. So with that said, why don't we, this is a handful of things, but why don't we jump in and chat a little bit.
Okay.
So you are not Presbyterian. You are,
no.
We'll forgive you.
Yes. I did grow up Presbyterian, and the first time I heard about seminary and thought about it seriously was from an SFTS grad. So
is that how you found out about the seminary?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're UCC. The majority of our students are Presbyterian. We're about 60% Presbyterian. Second largest group is UCC. Why did you choose SFTS over other seminaries that you might have chosen?
First of all, I chose the Graduate Theological Union. Right about the same time I started hearing about SFTS from my family's pastor, my academic advisor was encouraging me to go to grad school, and just the interfaith dialogue that happens at the Graduate Theological Union, the ability to share classes and share expertise is just, he was really excited about it, and ever since I've been here, I've been really excited about it.
So there's, because the GTU, we pool our course catalog, we pool our faculty. SFTS, most of the other schools are located in Berkeley, and our students take the vans back and forth. We help them get to the other schools.
Which is a huge gift, and I'll plug at the moment.
Okay.
You know, we live across a bridge from both city centers, and there are tolls on all of those, and it's about 20 miles or so. And the ability to pool resources and go as a group, and to not always be the one who has to drive over, it's just a huge gift.
My experience when I was a student, I graduated with my MDiv in 2006, was also that the van rides were they were a fun opportunity to get to engage with students that you might not otherwise, and talk about what interesting classes you're taking and all of that.
Absolutely.
So there's the combined course catalog of the GTU is about 300 courses offered a semester, which is a little daunting. You can't take them all.
It's not daunting, it's exciting.
Tell me, can you give me a couple of examples of some of the interesting courses that you've taken while you've studied here?
Oh gosh. So I have taken at least one course at the GTU every single semester I've been here. It's been everything from the pastoral care of families up at the Lutheran school to introduction to American neo-paganism at the Star King Unitarian School. I currently am taking my Christian education class at the Episcopalian Seminary and a writing course that is offered in conjunction with College Berkeley, who's another center of distinction, I guess, at this point. Yeah.
And through the GTU, we also have a relationship with University of California, Berkeley, and students can actually register and take master's level coursework there as well.
Yes.
So that gives you a sense of our broad ecumenical life here as part of the GTU. Can you say something about your experience of academics here at SFTS specifically?
Well, that is why I chose here and not another member school over at the Graduate Theological Union. When I came and visited, I sat in on a Theology 1 class and was really impressed with the teaching there. The academic rigor has just been higher over here, and it's been something that I enjoy.
Good. You currently live on campus with your spouse and
my
your dog.
Spouse and my dog. Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what your experience has been like in terms of community life. And you're also is it president?
Moderator.
Moderator of the Student Association.
So a lot of my community life is sucked up in some student government things, but that's very much a tight-knit community, and a lot of sharing and friendship goes into that as well. There is definitely a strong sense of community among all the students, I think, and especially those who live on campus. There's usually something going on Friday night. For example, this Friday, a group of students are performing the Laramie Project up in our student lounge for the first time. I was one of the organizers that helped get the Vagina Monologues off the ground here, and now it is hopefully going to be an annual thing.
This will be the third year?
Yes. Yeah, so there's a lot of life, and it keeps bubbling up from all different places. There's, as a moderator, I feel like I'm consistently just trying to get a handle on everything that everyone wants to be doing all the time. There's just a lot of energy around all of it.
So you live in campus housing.
Yes.
All of our one thing that's different about SFTS from some of the other schools is that all of our housing are individual apartments.
Yes.
There's no kind of cafeteria, so you get your own space.
Yes.
But it still feels like a tight-knit community.
That was especially important to me before I came here. I worked as a cook in a kitchen, and the idea of going without my own kitchen was a little scary. But there is also a community living house on campus, and that becomes the epicenter for a lot of things that happen. Trinity House has 5 students living there and a couple of commuter students who stay 1 or 2 nights a week. And they really encourage us all to just drop by, spend time there. So there's a couple of different spaces that are community hubs, and then, half of my apartment mates all leave their doors open if they're home, so it's just very open. And
most of our faculty live on campus as well, so you also see them and their families meandering around and walking their dogs, and we're all very close here together. I mentioned the internship program. So all of our MDiv students are required to do a full year of internship. They can space that out in different ways, but you have to have a certain amount committed to a particular internship so that you can grow through your life with that community. Some students are doing some more creative things in terms of nonprofits. We have a student right now who is interning at the United Nations office, the Presbyterian United Nations office. We've had a graduate who was in D.C. At a nonprofit, but I don't remember the name of it, that was related to public policy.
Yes. There's another student who is just finishing up her internship doing contemplative retreats through the outdoor program at a local private high school. So all of her hours have been planning for and leading backpacking trips using contemplative prayer and all sorts of practices.
That's pretty
really cool. Oh, yeah.
I know I interned, and a lot of folks intern in local Bay Area churches where you have a full-time pastor who supervises you, but you actually were a little bit more ambitious in finding internship sites. Why don't you talk about that?
So one goal was, since I am at a Presbyterian school, to do my internship with a UCC church. And so I contacted the conference minister, which is basically synod level director in Oregon. And I was hoping to either go to the Northwest or to the Rocky Mountain area and serve in a church there. And what ended up happening is a husband and wife who are pastors of their own churches in Hood River, Oregon, asked me to come and be their intern at both churches. So I got the experience of two very different, very UCC churches in a mostly rural area of Oregon and southern Washington, right on the Columbia River. Between the two of them, they had me do a little bit of everything, and yeah, it was 9 months for full-time for 9 months.
I'm curious what you found most difficult about your internship, and in terms of like what pushed you the most, and also what did you learn about yourself through your internship?
At first, the toughest learning curve, hands down, was learning two systems and two communities simultaneously. I entered in September, so right off the bat it was two sets of stewardship campaigns, working up to 2 annual meetings, and all the pieces that go in the life of a church, and 2 retreats, 2 sets of Advents, and so at first that learning curve was really tough, but part of me really enjoyed the balance and found that balance very life-giving of not getting immersed in a single community, which part of me had assumed that would be a challenge sort of throughout my internship. The other thing that really pushed me at first, and I found I loved it, was I got put in charge of a confirmation-style class of 8th and 9th graders.
That'll challenge anybody.
I've never worked with youth before, and they're scary. But I loved it. I found myself loving the challenge. I've done a lot of work with adults in small groups, and I really enjoy education, but adults will give you the benefit of the doubt, and the youth know if you're scrambling. And they let you know. It kept me really honest, and I appreciated that.
So do you, where do you see yourself? You'll graduate in May. This is a terrible thing to ask anybody, in their next to last semester, but where do you see yourself going next? What's the next step in life for you?
Clinical pastoral education. I will be applying for residencies this spring, and my hope is to spend a year in a hospital. At the moment, I think I want to specialize in hospice chaplaincy. That's sort of what started me off down the road towards seminary, and I've finally cycled back around and said, I need to pay attention to this. And hopefully I will find a space where I can use this energy for youth pastoring as well, maybe have that be some balance to where I see this direction with hospice chaplaincy.
Very different energies.
Yes, and apparently I enjoy balance in that way, where it's one very different thing than another. So
it's a good thing to know.
Yes.
What you're thinking about next step.
Yes.
You bringing up clinical pastoral education reminded me that SFTS has not a full residency program currently, but we do offer clinical pastoral education on our campus.
Yes.
We are one of a handful, if not there are not many seminaries, certainly they're the only Presbyterian or Graduate Theological Union seminary to offer a CPE program that's curriculum-based. So folks can do their CPE units in other settings and then do their group work here together. And then that program, we're really excited, has extended out, and we're now offering a concentration that's starting this year in clinical chaplaincy for folks who come to seminary and they know that that's the direction that they're headed, which is something that we're really excited about. We also offer concentrations in any variety of the academic disciplines, biblical studies, history, theology. And we're particularly well known for our concentration in Christian spirituality. We have one of the oldest and best established programs in Christian spirituality at a Protestant seminary. And a lot of our students take advantage of the spirituality classes to hit that balance that you talked about. So because there's so much brain work that you do in seminary, to also have a space for going into the heart space. Which reminds me that worship is a huge part of community life here at SFTS. You want to say a little bit about your experience of our worship here?
Worship is 4 times a week, and throughout the week there's a mix of something for everyone. Mondays and Fridays are a little more traditional, in that Mondays are classic word and preaching, and Fridays are word, preaching, and communion. Tuesdays and Thursdays are a prayer session, and then what we're calling worship lab. And that started last year while I was on internship, and I just love getting the emails of, today we're playing with clay in worship. And last week we were down using our bodies and doing movement on the labyrinth. And the labyrinth that no one knows about. We actually have 2 labyrinths on campus, one that's sort of sunny and up on a terrace, and another one that's behind some trees and more secluded. So this one was down in that more secluded space. So all sorts of things happen in worship. It's, I think, a really great mix. As a student who's definitely more on the liberal side on this campus, I feel safe and welcome. And every senior is required to preach, and so I get to spend much of the year hearing my classmates preach, which I love.
I do too.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's it's always nerve-wracking to preach in front of your community, but at the same time, I think students find that they're just so surrounded by the love and support when they do it. And it's, as a staff person, it's really fun to see, people go through the process of seminary and then actually in the pulpit and sharing something from their head and heart with the community. So,
and there are plenty of times on campus where, we are a really diverse student body, and those differences can occasionally be more conflictual than life-giving. But when you see everyone in the pulpit being their outrageous and real selves, one woman who did a sermon as Mary and threw the jar of oil against the wall and had it break. And then there's one of my friends who's a former Marine and loves to preach in the style of like 1950s big pulpit pastors, and it's just so beautiful. So.
You brought up the diversity on campus, theological diversity. We're a diverse campus in a lot of different ways. How has that shaped your educational experience at SFTS?
It's part of why I came here, to be honest. I, through college and my young adult life to this point, I spent a lot of time in very liberal circles. I knew how to talk to people who thought like me. What I didn't know was how to say anything that I believed in such a way that anyone who didn't already agree with me might be interested or might understand where I was coming from better. And that happened a lot and very quickly. And has made me very passionate about not only interfaith dialogue, but also dialogue between mainline churches and the evangelical churches, and the way that interfaith groups stay open to everyone. That's become very important to me. And I don't think it would have happened unless I had come to a place where it was so diverse.
Yeah, that was definitely my experience as well as a student. There was a particular classmate, and I remember he and I could barely sit in the same room together when we started, and we ended up, we're still really good friends to this day, and, you know, just have a much broader view of Christianity in the world, and Christianity in connection with other faith traditions. So the folks that are watching this are people who are in discernment.
Aren't we all?
They're thinking they're thinking seminary or no seminary. They're thinking what seminary. What are a handful of questions that you would encourage them to ask in their own discernment process?
What types of environments do you thrive in? I applied to seminaries all over the country, and I think a lot of the choice I made was environmental. Are you ready? One of the things, I was the youngest person in my class. And I think I was ready, but I don't know if I asked that question enough. And one of the beautiful things I've learned here is how long life is. One of my favorite classmates retired from 25 years of teaching high school math before she came here, and is now ready to start a brand new career. And I just admire her so much. I would encourage you to go to a place that scares you a little. Perhaps not terrifies you completely, because that's just too much in any move, but that scares you a little, where you will be pushed. It made my year tough, my first year tough, but worth it, and I am glad I did it.
Those are good.
Yeah. I'd encourage you to apply to a number of them, and go visit if you can, or have conversations with as many people as you can. A single alum will tell you just one story of a place, and I think that's something I've really seen, especially over the years. One of my supervisors on my internship was an SFTS grad, and so now I've heard a whole new story about SFTS in the 70s, and things I never knew. That mostly have to do, I think, with his experience. But yes, all those stories are valid, and your story will be very different. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really good advice. And you know, my experience, certainly the way that myself and Dawn Hammond, who also works in our enrollment department here, and I know my colleagues in the admissions offices at the other Presbyterian schools and the other schools of the GTU, all of us. You know, our hope is to help people as they discern where God is calling them. And so we always, you know, my favorite thing is to be able to sit and talk with somebody about what their journey has been and what they're passionate about and how theological education might fit into that. So I appreciate getting to talk with you today.
Absolutely.
Please come visit us at SFTS. It's a beautiful place to come see. Talk with our students, talk with our alum, give us a call in enrollment. We'd love to chat with you. And thanks for taking the time to visit with us today.